So, hello and welcome along to another edition of Isolation Interviews for Hospital Radio Reading and for my YouTube channel. And I'm super excited to be joined by the very funny Nathan Caton. Thank you so much for joining me. How are you?
I'm good, mate. Yourself?
I'm really well. Yeah, I mean, obviously, kind of the weird world we find ourselves in. I was going to start off by asking, how have you coped over the last couple of years? How have you found the kind of the new way of working and everything?
How have I coped? A lot of alcohol. Making bum punch at 7 a.m. for breakfast. Don't judge me. It's been scary at first. Now, I remember the start of lockdown one. I was like all my diary is completely emptied out. I'm normally gigging. I'm on the road 5-6 days a week, and then I looked at my diary and there was like nothing, literally nothing. I was like, I've got bills, and also just been stuck in the house with my girlfriend, who I love, but no. It was scary, but you roll with the punches, you adapt. The Zoom online gigs started kicking in, and I started jumping on that, and you just kind of I ended up enjoying the Zoom gigs.
I was going to say, how did you find the Zoom gigs? Because I imagine for a comedian, when you're waiting for laughter to come back at you, and it doesn't necessarily straight away, or how was that to kind of get used to?
It was at first it was weird because no one knew exactly how to do Zoom gigs properly. So I was doing the first few gigs I did. It was literally just me just talking down the camera. Everyone had their mics off. Had the mics off, had their cameras off. So you can't hear anyone, you can't see anyone. There's no interaction, there's no feedback. You're just talking into a void. It's less of a comedian, more like a YouTuber having a mental breakdown or something. But then people started working out, okay, you can turn people's mics on, like a designated front row, we can see them and you can interact, and then you start getting feedback from the jokes that, okay, this feels better. It's a different skill set to being in the clubs, doing live comedy, but it's a skill that I enjoyed working on. Even though I love doing live stuff, the Zoom thing, I don't think it's ever going to go away now. So I can do both, I like to think.
I mean, obviously at the height of lockdown, when obviously you couldn't do anything at all, were you doing anything you wouldn't normally do, learning any new skills, doing anything differently?
Doing anything that I wouldn't normally do. Listen to my girlfriend. Boom! Having a conversation with my girlfriend, asking her how her day was. Never used to do that. What I do, I've been learning French for a couple of years, so I just kind of upped that. So I was speaking French, practicing French every day, as opposed to once or twice a week. Because there's a few online meetup groups where you can talk to other French people or other French learners. So I was doing that a lot to keep me going. I turned to poetry. I only wrote one poem, which is on YouTube. If you type in Nathan Caton poem, you'll find it. I won't repeat it, what it's called now, but just find it and you'll know. What else did I do? I spent more time on social media. Normally, I limit myself because I know it's just, I'm not the kind of person that's to stay on it all the time. I kind of detach myself and just live a life. But I just try to keep myself busy because I don't like sitting around doing nothing. I'm so used to being busy and doing stuff. Then when lockdown came, I was like, okay, I need to occupy my mind to distract myself from the fact that I'm in lockdown and there's no actual gigs to go to.
I mean, the other thing I was going to ask is obviously now that gigs are starting up again and you're obviously getting back in front of an audience, does that take a bit of getting used to again because you've not done it for so long? Was that something that you kind of naturally fell back into easily, or how did that kind of, happen for you?
I guess there was nerves at first, my first few gigs back. It's like, it's been a while. How do I do this again? How do I start? Hello, what's my jokes? But I guess it's kind of like riding a bike or something. Once you get on, it's like, oh, okay, this is what I used to do, and you just end up going back into the flow of it. So that was all right for me.
So, I mean, where for you did comedy begin? Do you remember kind of where you first became interested in comedy and kind of how you got into it?
Where I first became interested in comedy was from probably as a child watching what my family were watching. So they were watching the Lenny Henry show from back in the late 80s, early 90s. A lot of Afro-Caribbean, Black Caribbean comedy shows like The Real McCoy, and things like that, and like even like snippets of Eddie Murphy, even though I shouldn't have been watching it because I was a kid, but I would hear my family laughing. I'm like, what's so funny? Then I've eventually found out what it was, and I've kind of sneak a little peek. So I remember, like, always been interested in comedy from that perspective when I was a kid, making people laugh and like kind of, and also because like seeing Lenny Henry and like Eddie Murphy and Will McCoy, they were black comedians. Like, oh, they look like us, you know. Oh, okay, so we can do that too. I can do that. So yeah, I used to like imitate some of like Lenny Henry's characters from the shows that I watched and stuff. So yeah, that I guess that's how I kind of got into the world of comedy. And it was always something that like I had always enjoyed doing, like performing arts at school. I did drama performances, and I always did better in the comedy roles. So I was like, okay, stand up is something that I kind of. It's just there's something about comedy, stand up, which kind of appeals to me, making people laugh, making people happy and smile. I don't know, I like doing it, but because my family were very much like get a proper education, it didn't really sink in that it could be a career option for me. It was always like, okay, I'll do it as a hobby, you know, alongside a proper job. And then when I was 14, I did my first stand-up set. It was a talent show at a church. And the reaction that I got from there, I was like, whoa. Like they obviously I kept it clean because we're in the church. But yeah, they were all laughing and clapping. I was like, I like this feeling. So then it grew even more, that desire to kind of want to do comedy in some sense. Then when I was 19, years later, after doing my GCSEs, A-levels, and after my first year of uni, I went to a comedy club. I thought, why not? You know, it was the summer holidays, I had nothing to do. Went on stage and died on my behind. Hard. Looking back on it now, it was painful. But even though I died, I enjoyed being on stage. And so I just kept on going back. And here I am, like 15 years later, and I'm still blagging it, and they're giving me money now.
I imagine that, you know, when you do have those gigs where they don't go to plan, where they kind of they fall apart, I imagine those you can learn so much from them, and they're good for your kind of development.
Yeah, you definitely learn more at the bad gigs than the good gigs. The good gigs are great, don't get me wrong, but the bad gigs, you learn, you grow, you evolve, you learn what not to do, you learn how to react to certain situations, you learn about what material works and doesn't in certain situations. Yeah, obviously, like, if you're having more bad gigs than good gigs, then that's okay. Then stop. Okay, there's growing, and then there's just like being a bad comedian. But yeah, I in a weird way, I kind of enjoy like not bad gigs, but like the gigs were like the new material kind of gigs where I can experiment, because then you know you're seeing what works and what you can do and etc. Good gigs are great, but yeah, every comedian has to go through those hard gigs to kind of just become the great comedians that they are.
And I imagine as well that nerves can play a good part in gigs, because you can use those to really kind of get, I think, the audience involved. And I mean, for you with nerves, has that ever been kind of something that you've struggled with, or has that always been quite a kind of a comfortable thing for you?
Yeah, I wouldn't say it's an uncomfortable thing. It's definitely more comfortable for me. It's never been anything that's kind of hindered me too much. Yeah, I was always told when I did like drama in high school and at college, I was told if you don't get nerves, you're not doing it right. The nerves show that you care about what you do, and the nerves make you focus and execute correctly. So when I get nerves now, even though it might be like, oh, gosh, I feel nervous, at the same time, I'm like, okay, well, obviously I care about this, so I'm focused to get this done correctly. And so I kind of just learn to just accept and live with the nerves, because it helps me do my job properly.
And I imagine as well, the next step up from that is when you get to start doing things on TV. I mean, how does that differ to doing something in front of a live audience, doing something on TV? Because it obviously reaches a much bigger audience, but sometimes the kind of response can be a bit more delayed.
Yeah, and I don't know, it's as great as it is being on TV, it is a different mechanism, it's a different vehicle to live stuff. Live stuff is just raw, right there. What's said is said in that moment, whereas TV, like, obviously sometimes you have to dilute what you say. You can't always say everything that you would say like in a live comedy set. Sometimes things won't translate over. So it is different in that sense. Yeah, but it's I mean, it's still great. I'm not going to complain about, you know, doing stuff on TV. It's great to do. But it's just little things that you have to bear in mind, different little mechanisms.
And I imagine as well that gives you that platform that you can reach a wider audience, I suppose, as well. I mean, you can get, you know, people that wouldn't necessarily have otherwise come across your comedy will come across you and go, oh, wow, this is interesting, and I want to know more. So I imagine it can be quite useful in that sense.
Oh, no, it's great. I mean, yeah, doing TV work, it's great to have on your CV. It's great to reach a wider audience. Yeah, and I've been quite fortunate, and I've done varied like TV and radio stuff. So like I've done comedy shows, or like my own solo shows, where I've had like a couple in their 70s sat next to some like a bunch of young guys in their like late teens, early 20s, because I've done like Radio 4, which has reached the older audience, and then I've done like Mock the Week of Us, How is Good News. So yeah, the power of TV is, people, even though social media is massive and YouTube is massive, TV still does work.
And I imagine as well that, you know, kind of doing those things, it gives you the opportunity to work with some of the, you know, some of your idols, people that you've looked up to. I mean, have you ever had the pleasure of meeting one of your idols, or getting to work alongside someone that you thought you'd never get the chance to?
Yeah, I've worked with Lenny Henry a few times now, to the point now where like we're cool, right? We see each other and we're friendly. And I remember the first time I worked with him. It was on, I think he was doing a TV show for BBC One. And I took a picture and sent it to my family, and they're like, oh, "What? You and Lenny Henry?" He's like, I know. Because he was the guy when I was a kid. Like, he was like, well, I say he is still like in British TV, you know, the black comedian of the UK. So to work with him, it's been great. You know, to him to, like, he's recommended me for stuff and for him to know who I am and like my stuff, is like, oh man, cool.
And I mean, is there a dream, you know, somewhere you would love to perform one day that you haven't had the chance to yet, like a kind of a goal for yourself?
Oh, I have many goals, man. I'm a very ambitious person. Like I want to do my own like nationwide, a massive tour. I want to have my own special, like on Netflix or whatever. I like to have my own TV show. I like to do my own like show on radio where I combine comedy and sports, because that's my two passions. I like to try and like do stand up in America. Yeah, it's always been something that I've kind of like toyed with, and but it hasn't happened as yet. Yeah, there's lots of things that I want to do that I have yet to do. So let's watch the space.
And I mean, over the next couple of months, what have you got that you're looking forward to? I mean, what are the plans going forward? I'm
on tour. My tour starts mid-Feb. Yeah, it's a UK tour. Starts off in Leicester. I'll go off to Manchester, Newcastle, Glasgow, Edinburgh, Birmingham, Nottingham, Cardiff, and it ends in London. I'm a London boy. The show's called Nathan Caton. Let's talk about Vex. Get tickets from nathancaton.com. Follow me on social media. So that's the big thing that's imminent.
I mean, I was looking, you're also doing Oxford as well, Guildford, which is all fairly close as well. So, you know, anyone that wants to go and see you, thoroughly recommend it. I was going to ask, in terms of obviously, you know, performing the country, I mean, I imagine sort of an audience in Manchester will be very different to an audience in London. I mean, is that something that you've seen much of before, or are you looking forward to kind of getting out there and seeing the crowds?
Stage time is stage time. I always look forward to gigging. That's cool. I mean, I've been doing comedy for so long now that, like, even though there may be differences, it's not too bad. Maybe just tweak a few words here and there, or make a different reference to something. But for the most part, I like to think that my stuff reaches everyone, regardless of the location.
Now, I just also wanted to briefly, obviously, say, just before we go, because it has been a pleasure talking to you, and thank you for your time, but is there any messages you'd like to give to anyone who's, you know, working for the NHS, you know, the amazing NHS that we have, or anyone that's currently stuck in hospital at the moment?
Yeah, so I would say to the NHS, thank you. And I know that's a very easy thing to say, people may have said it so much, but honestly, we say it because we mean it. Thank you so much. You deserve more than the measly 1% pay increase. So you guys our heroes. Thank you very much for. I mean, I've heard politicians say, well, Boris has got us through this pandemic. No, the NHS have got us through this pandemic. So thank you very much to people who are in hospital. I hope it's a short stay. I wish you nothing but good health and all the best for the future. So take care of yourselves, and just stay in a positive mindset. All right, it's just not permanent. It's a passing. That's all it is. So yeah.
Now, I just want to say, Nathan, it's been an absolute pleasure. Thank you so much for giving up your time. Of course, keep safe, and you are welcome back anytime.
Thanks, mate. Take care. All the best.